and this is A Purring Cat is a Time Machine, published originally in Daikaiju Zine. I hold the purring cat and close my eyes to slip from this time stream. Cats long dead and long gone materialize between my hands, their purr an anchor to my marrow and soul. I grieve and rejoice to feel their cozy warmth, their fur soft again, healthy. My hands tell the cats that I have not forgotten them, that I always know their strategic sweet spots for scratches and rubs. And they remember me as they perch upon my thighs, painful nips to my hand replaced by apologetic strokes of tongue, loose drifts of hair, ticklish kisses to my cheeks. I then open my eyes to see this cat, and know I will relive this moment, this cat, for all of my days, that their pervasive hair may very well linger in this world long after. I'm inspired to write poetry by everything around me. I think as a writer, you have to be constantly curious. Sometimes I'm inspired by reading other poetry, and just a line will hit me and I'll give it my own unique twist and go from there and write something totally fresh and new. The world has to be my inspiration. This poem came about through grief. I had a beloved cat, 17 years old, named Purring, and she succumbed to kidney disease. And even though I'd known for years that her death was inevitable, I'd already lost her brother Palom when he was 12, it completely devastated me. I wanted to be able to help her, I wanted to be able to ease her suffering, and in the end, there was only so much I could do. So I grieved, cleaned up the house, got rid of her old things, and then about 2 months later, we went out and we adopted 3 new cats from a shelter. All 3 of them were adults. One of them was a black cat, and they're especially hard to adopt because people have terrible superstitions and abuse them. But these 3 cats, they helped me begin to heal. They couldn't replace Purring, but I love them for being them. And I held them on my laps, and I cuddled them, and I carried them around the house. And I felt transported through time to Purring and to other cats that I'd known. And that's what the poem came from. It was Purring, and everything else just poured into that. A lot of my poems, I write the rough draft all at once, within 5 or 10 minutes. I write most of my poems 2 months of the year, in April and in November, when Writer's Digest's poetry blog does a poem a day project, and they put out a prompt every single day of the month. And I challenge myself during those months to write a poem each of those days. And my goal is to have ultimately about half of those be worth submitting afterward. So I'll churn out the rough drafts, and then I go back after the month is done, and I will edit heavily. And in the case of this poem, the rough draft, the gist of the poem was there, but I really had to finesse it to find the right ending for it, and that gave me the most trouble. Learn how to edit, and that's very hard. I think a lot of poets, I know I include myself in this, get the idea early on that the poem kind of arises from some kind of divine inspiration, and it's supposed to be pure and unadulterated and perfect right away, and it's not. And you have to learn to be critical of your own work. You have to find the right flow. I find reading aloud is incredibly helpful to find that flow, to make it work, and to make it be a cohesive story, even if it's 3 lines or 30 lines or 300 lines. Each poem is a story unto itself. Well, I think it's practice. Read and understand what you want to emphasize, whether it's your own poems or in someone else's. And then if someone else reads your work in a different way, you respect that because everyone brings their own voice, their own feelings to the work. My favorite poet is named Mary Soon Lee, and she's published widely across science fiction and fantasy magazines and anthologies, and she had an ebook come out last year that I think is going to be in print later this year in 2021. It's called Sign of the Dragon, and it is a fantasy novel told completely through individual poems. And it goes from different perspectives, different places in this fantasy world. It is absolutely stunning because she works the entire human experience into the poems. It's a book that can make someone cry, make you laugh out loud. It is really a stunning work. I would highly recommend it to anyone. And again, it's called Sign of the Dragon by Mary Soon Lee. I'm always grateful to my fellow writers for supporting me and keeping me going. Writing is hard. It's often thankless. I fight depression, anxiety, and I have a wonderful community around me and really good friends that keep me going. And that's especially important these days when everyone is all more isolated.